We'll tell you what you're worth to Facebook, Tesla scales back on autopilot, and more details on the VW defeat device scandal. Tech News Tonight is next.
This is Twit.
This is Tech News Tonight, episode 460 for Wednesday, November 4th, 2015. This episode is brought to you by Epson's new EcoTank printers. With Epson's line of SuperTank all-in-one printers, you can print thousands of documents without running out of ink. EcoTank is loaded and ready to print when you are. Visit epson.com/EcoTank to find out more. Welcome, I'm Megan Maroney. Let's get to the tech news. 1.55 billion users. That's the whopping number that Facebook dropped this afternoon in its third quarter results call. Also, they get 8 billion daily video views. That's double what they reported in April. The company announced an 11% increase in earnings with $4.5 billion in revenue despite higher costs. Revenue jumps are due to a rise in video ads as well as ads on Instagram, which is owned by Facebook. The company also said that mobile now makes up 78% of its ad revenue. And in case you're wondering what your personal contribution is to Facebook revenue from all that time you waste scrolling through Facebook, according to Business Insider, Facebook earns $9.86 from every U.S. user per quarter. So it's worth something. For them, at least. Shares of Facebook were up 3.8% in after-hours trading. Today in surveillance news, the UK has published a draft of the Investigatory Powers Bill. That's newly proposed legislation that's not as harsh as previous versions, but which Edward Snowden calls the activity log of your life. Home Secretary Theresa May disagrees with Snowden's sentiment and insists that the measures in the bill are required to fight terrorist plots, cyber attacks, child exploitation, and online fraudsters. Among the many proposals, one clause would require ISPs to store the internet activity of everyone in Britain for a year. Another says police and intelligence officers would no longer need a warrant to see the names of websites people have visited. Today, Disney launched a new device called Circle. It aims to take some of the pain out of managing a child's screen time. Circle is a small hardware cube. It works with an iOS application that allows parents to filter out the stuff they don't want their kids to see. You can set time limits, automatically turn off access at certain times, block ads. It lets parents snoop on what their kids are doing, and it can automatically turn off the internet altogether. It seems like magic in a box to me, but I would have to use one to see if it really does all that and cannot be easily circumvented by my children. Our amazing account executive, Carly Perkins, contacted the founder of Circle today, and they said they would send me one to review, so stay tuned to hear more in the next week or so. And we've all seen the videos of the moronic things people have done while using Tesla's new auto steer feature, relaxing behind the wheel, reading the newspaper, and of course, recording all of this with running commentary and posting it on YouTube. This is not only stupid, but against Tesla's recommendations. The guidelines for auto steer, auto lane change, and auto park specify that the features do not turn the car into a fully autonomous vehicle, and drivers still need to be alert and pay attention. But people are people and cannot be trusted. On his earnings call this week, Tesla CEO Elon Musk says they're planning to implement additional constraints to, quote, minimize the possibility of people doing crazy things with it. Coming up, the emissions scandal spreads and scientists 3D print human hair. But first, this episode is brought to you by Epson. Epson's revolutionary EcoTank line of printers for home and office introduce a new age in printing. The new EcoTank ET4550 wireless all-in-one printer doesn't use ink cartridges. Instead, it features an innovative refillable ink tank. Comes with enough ink to print up to 8,500 pages. That's equivalent to about 50 ink cartridge sets. You're loaded and ready to print for up to 2 years. Powered by Epson's leading-edge precision core technology, it delivers high-speed, vivid colors and laser-quality black text, plus auto two-sided printing, a 30-page auto document feeder, and easy wireless printing from tablets and smartphones. Visit epson.com/ecotank today to transform the way your home, office, or work group prints. For the best combination of ease and value, turn to the new Epson EcoTank printers. That's epson.com/ecotank, and we thank Epson for their support. Volkswagen's emission scandal just keeps getting worse. This week, we learned that the built-in cheating software could affect an additional 800,000 vehicles. including more Audis and Porsches. VW admitted to understating the level of carbon dioxide emissions and fuel use of the additional cars to regulators. Joining us to talk about the new revelations is Ashley Rodriguez, reporter at Quartz. Welcome, Ashley.
Well, thanks, Megan.
So real quick, let's get a recap of how this defeat device works so people who can be reminded of this story.
Sure. Well, the defeat device is a piece of software that can detect when a vehicle is being tested as opposed to when it's driving on the road, and it adjusts the car's emissions accordingly. So when a vehicle is on the road, emissions may be 10 to 40 times higher than they are during testing.
So what did the EPA say this week about this scandal? What was the new thing that we learned this week?
Well, earlier this week, the EPA alleged that another 10,000 vehicles sold in the U.S. are equipped with this defeat device, which is used to cheat emissions tests. This includes the 2015 Porsche Cayenne, which is the first Porsche model to be named in the scandal, as well as additional Volkswagen and Audi models. Volkswagen shortly after came out and disputed those claims and said that they're working with the EPA to straighten this out. But it's still unclear how these vehicles could be cheating emissions tests as the EPA claims they are, if not for a defeat device.
Right. So now this was mainly this was a diesel problem before, but then news came out today that some of the cars involved in the scandal were not diesel powered. They were just regular gas powered cars.
Yes, that's right. So everything up until this point has been diesel models. All of the 500,000 cars sold in the U.S. and the millions abroad have all been focused on diesel vehicles and specifically their nitrogen dioxide emissions. Now there's a new problem, as you noted. Volkswagen came out and said that there's a whole separate issue that could affect non-diesel gas-powered vehicles. Apparently, Volkswagen discovered through internal investigations that there were quote-unquote inconsistencies in the carbon dioxide emissions and gas mileage estimates for about 800,000 vehicles. So some cars are getting fewer miles to the gallon than they were expected to, and they're emitting more carbon dioxide into the air. The bulk of those cars affected were diesel models, but the problem also affects certain gas-powered vehicles as well. We don't know exactly which models yet, but apparently the U.S. is not affected. So the problem seems to be confined to Europe right now.
So what are they doing? I mean, are we going to see more recalls that you know of?
Well, it's possible. You know, we've already seen the Volkswagen has ordered 8.5 million cars to be recalled across Europe. We're expecting to see more in the U.S., especially if the EPA's new claims turn out to be correct. I don't know if there are more infractions out there, but if there are, at a certain point, you know, Volkswagen just needs to pull the Band-Aid off and get it all out there, because the longer this carries on, the harder it's going to be to restore the public's trust.
Right. I mean, trust is really the big issue here. I mean, anyone who's bought a car, they probably, I mean, these diesel cars especially, they were concerned about the environment. So that's why they bought the car. So is there anything that they're doing now for those people, or are people just kind of left hanging?
Well, the new CEO who stepped up shortly after the whole emissions scandal broke out has said that, you know, he's deeply disappointed in what's going on and he's going to work hard to actually get to the bottom of all this. So right now, the attention on Volkswagen's end seems to be to really figure out what the full scope is, what the problem is, how you solve it, and then, you know, make those measures. So while there's not a solid timeline right now for when we can expect all of the answers, it seems like that's their big focus at the moment.
Well, it's a really interesting story. So, Ashley, you were a reporter at Quartz. What's your beat, basically?
I'm general assignment focusing on finance right now.
So you do cover some tech when tech overlaps with finance?
Yeah, when tech overlaps with finance, which happens a lot. But I dabble in a couple of areas, including marketing, media, and just general business news as well.
Well, you have some great articles, a really interesting article about Spotify and how it's really, changing the music industry, but not necessarily in the way that we think it is. Some great articles about gender pay gap. So I check those out at Quartz. Ashley Rodriguez is at Ashley R Reports on Twitter. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Megan.
Take care. And finally tonight, TechCrunch reports that researchers at Carnegie Mellon can now 3D print hair. They've also figured out a way to realistically add that hair to objects needing hair. 3D printed objects, not bald guys. This technique is for 3D printing hair was inspired by those gossamer plastic strands you get when you're using a hot glue gun, if you've ever done that. The researchers used a low-cost fused deposition modeling, or FDM printer, to produce the hairs strand by strand. And that's it for this edition of Tech News Tonight. Thanks to Dave for sending me this message on Twitter. He says this may seem a bit on the simple side when it comes to the changes on Twitter from stars to hearts, as discussed last night on Tech News Tonight, episode 459. But hearts are what Twitter uses in the Periscope app to let viewers show they like things. So it might just be that Twitter changed things to have a universal look across products and services. Love the show, Dave. Thank you, Dave. That is interesting. Periscope, of course, is the live streaming app that Twitter bought, and the hearts fly up if you like the video. Aaron from North Dakota also wrote in to say, interesting to hear about Twitter's heart star conundrum on last night's show. Hopefully the company realizes there are plenty of other symbols to test out there if the current one fails. Horseshoes, clovers, blue moons, basically an entire bowl full of opportunity. Thank you for all your messages. You can email me. I'm Megan@twit.tv. And we are on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, TuneIn, the podcast app on your phone. And now you can choose between 3 different apps on Apple TV to watch us on your television. You can also subscribe to this show at twit.tv/TN2. Write to us at TN2@twit.tv and watch live every weekday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And don't miss our morning news program, Tech News Today, every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Megan Maroney. Thanks for watching.
Bandwidth for Tech News Tonight is brought to you by CashFly.com.